Today we'll be checking out an OBS Studio plugin that is so much fun, mostly because it gives us access to so many things such as customizable stinger transitions and a whole lot of interesting filters. Listen, if you use OBS Studio, make sure you subscribe. You don't want to miss anything. Alright, so the plugin I'm talking about is called Shader-tastic. I'll make sure to link it in the description. Now you might be thinking, Shader-tastic? Maybe that sounds like shader filter. It is quite different. Now, in order to download and install it, you can go to download, follow the instruction for the manual install, or download the installer. After that, make sure you restart your OBS Studio, and from there, you should have access to a couple of new things. Let's start with scene transitions. You want to go to your scene transition tab and click on the plus, and you will see a brand new one called Shader-tastic. Click on it, and let's add that. The first option is audio fade style. We're gonna leave it to crossfade, and then we will pick our effect. We have burn here, and we can already preview the transition, see what it looks like. We can change the transition point, but let's see what that looks like in practice. There you go. That's the kind of burn effect it does. Now, throughout this whole video, I'd like for you to pay attention to my CPU load here to kind of have an idea of if an effect is actually pulling on your CPU or not. All right, let's see if I switch to the game scene. There you go. Okay, now let's go back to transition and let's go to properties and test another one. Displace, preview transition on this one. And you can see the type of transition it is, but you definitely want to actually test it to see what it looks like. So it's some sort of glitchy thing, morph thing going on, which is really, really nice. And we'll see this whole displacement effect somewhere else a little bit later. Now you have the option to play around with the strength of the X and Y. So you want to, X is going to be horizontal, Y is going to be vertical. So if you wanted to really, really slide from the left or to the right, you could probably do this, and there you go. You see the slide is a little stronger there. But there's also color space, which is gonna change the way it pulls, basically the way it displaces the image based on the color. The preview that it's a little bit different. What does that look like? There you go. There's also the border method. So basically when it's changing, how do you want the outside to look like? So if it's switching the image, you might want it to repeat the borders. So whatever is going to be outside of the bounds is going to be repeated. I don't know if you can tell from here. Here you can see it is mirrored basically. Well, when it's B, you can see it's mirrored. And if you put repeat, it just repeats without mirroring it. So let's put mirror here. I don't think you're going to see a huge difference, but let's test it. I don't know. All right. And then we have frost slide, which I kind of really like. There you go. Basically, you have this frosted panel that slides across and then also switches scenes. You can change the angle, the width. For example, if you want it to be thick, there you go. You can make it super thick. The direction from right to left, left to right, the blur level, and also the opacity of the white mask. I like this one to be a little low so you can really see that blur effect. Let's see what that looks like. It's a pretty cool effect. I really like it. I really enjoy it. It's pretty nice. So highly customizable. You set it the way you like it. Okay, then we have Gaussian blur, and this one seems to just blur everything out and then fade into the other one and then release the blur, right? So very simple, this one. Not bad, not the most impressive thing, but I like it still. Here you can set the blur level. So if you don't want a lot of blur or if you want a ton of blur, I would probably go for less because less is more. There you go. I think that's pretty clean, actually. Yeah, that's not bad. I like that. Then we have ink drop, which is pretty interesting. We don't have any options for it. It's take it or leave it. And it looks like that. I feel like we have something similar in the default transitions, if I'm not mistaken. What is it called? And the Luma wipe ones. We'll see. There you go. Never mind. There is a little bit of displacement, a little bit of distortion in this that you wouldn't find on the others. Yeah, no, this is original. Pretty cool. And now we have pixelate, which is similar to the blur one. Basically pixelates in, pixelates out while doing the transition. So it looks like this. Personally, probably too much stuff going on. To be fair, with a lot of fancy transitions, if you have every single pixel on screen moving, then you're gonna have a low bitrate problem. So if you stream at a low bitrate, try to avoid fancy transitions like that because it's going to ruin the bitrate. Although low bitrate usually ends up with pixelation, so maybe it's gonna counter it. I don't know. Anyways, so for the burn, you can put random noise. It's pretty clean. I'm gonna set my transition back to cut just to make sure that I'm good. And transitions are not the only thing that this plugin comes with. It actually comes with a bunch of filters also. So let's try it out. Just gonna make sure I select my camera. I'm gonna go to filters. And if you click on your filters list, I'm gonna have a bunch, probably more than you because I have all the plugins installed. But you'll see one called Shader-tastic Filter. There we go. So it's one filter that actually has a bunch of options where you can pick the one you want. So displacement map, I can't speak today. Displacement map source is basically going to take one source and use it as a displacement map for the source you're adding the filter to. It's a little hard to demonstrate here, but basically the different values of whatever source you're gonna use as your displacement map are gonna determine how much this image is going to be distorted. For example, if I turn off my camera here, you see, okay, here you see that I have words on stream loading, right? So that's a little animation going on. So if I add this as the displacement map, you can actually add any source from anywhere in your scenes collection. I'm gonna select it. Displacement map right there. I'm gonna go to words on stream 2, boom, and you're gonna kind of see the type of stuff that it does, right? So depending on the values of that source, it's going to displace this source. I don't know if that makes sense. I think Finite Singularity's noise plugin would probably be amazing for this because you could have a noise source and it would basically distort this source. But anyways, make sure you read whatever is written here. It explains kind of like how it really works. As options, you have the border method, which I explained in the transition thing. So it's always like mirror or repeat. And then the strength, just how much distortion are you getting on one side. You can see I lower X to 0. It's basically horizontally, it is not distorting at all, right? You can see my eye through this perfectly, but if I put it up, you can see it starts displacing it. You see my eyeball right there? And now it puts it in place. So if I put this at 0, nothing either. So a little bit of displacement. Actually, maybe a pretty cool way of, I've been doing a lot of like frosted glass effect. This might be my new thing. Clean glass or clean ice cube effect. I love that. So that's the first effect. And then you have face detection effects. As you can see, there's a bunch of them, including distort. So yeah, this is my true form. This is how I, this is how I actually look. So it's really cool that this plugin comes with like face detection filters, which is something that we don't see a lot. But also I want you to pay attention to my CPU right now is that it jumped at like 17%. So use carefully, use absolutely carefully. I know a lot of people are looking for effects like the Snapchat Snapcam software since it's not a thing anymore. It's cool to see that people can still develop plugins that do things like that. Of course, you can play with the distortion. Oh my. Oh my. If you use something like StreamerBot, this is definitely something that you can activate with channel points. I look ridiculous. Let me switch. Laser eyes, which I really love. So nice. You have a ton of actual options for this one. Like a lot. Look at that. Including an audio source. At first I was like, why is there an audio source? And let me set it to my mic. And now you see why. So if you're yelling at someone, you can be like, hey, don't talk to me like that. You can also play around with the threshold and the intensity. Let's make it real intense. Yeah, real intense. God damn. Wow. Wow. So it's really so cool. This is pretty nice. I think this is pretty cool. And then there's that one option that I really, really love, and it's disable effect if sound does not trigger. So let's say you add your alert box as the audio source. As long as there's no alert, this won't be on. But as soon as audio comes in, it triggers automatically. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? Or maybe you can have like a sound effect reward that's just like laser sounds and it just triggers with that and that only. Could be cool. Anyways, that was laser eyes. I love it. All right. Then we have face detection reference. I'm not sure like what practical use that has, but it's cool to see just how face detection works in OBS Studio. That's really nice. Like, look at that. It's doing such a good job. You can just toggle a couple of them like face mesh. It's really good, especially the mouth. Like, oh, never mind. Okay, maybe maybe don't exaggerate too much, which means that if you are a developer and you know how to make OBS plugins, like that's something you could probably use. I'm in the process of learning how to make my own plugins, and maybe I don't know, it's a little complicated to me, not gonna lie. I love this one too, zoom to face, which is basically like face detection, but the only option you have is the zoom level and also the aspect ratio. So if you want to make like this, like a meme, it's pretty cool because if you uncheck that box, what was the meme? Was the wide Putin meme? So you can control the zoom level, which is pretty nice. But also the fact that it tracks you is really cool. I really like that. One effect that I enjoyed doing was doing this like push-pull effect, but manually, as in like I move and it stays the same. Like if I'm like that and I move back, my face stays the same size. The only thing I don't like is that it reacts to my eyebrows, also reacts to my mouth. Kind of weird, but yeah, something else that you can like trigger with StreamerBot or a keyboard shortcut or your Stream Deck. All right, after that we have Gaussian blur. So very simple, Gaussian blur. You can pick on the Y, on the X. I personally use composite blur as a filter, as a plugin to do my blurs, but it's cool that this is available. Same thing for pixelate. That's not bad. Imagine a channel point reward where people can pixelate and also maybe mess with your sound and make the whole stream go 8-bit. All right, and then we have rainbow, which is, you know, a hue shift on an animation, but you can control the speed. And for someone who has a lot of different colors on screen at all times, this is trippy. This is super trippy with my setup. I really like it. I really like it. The other option you have is reset time on visibility toggle. So it basically restarts the animation, right? So if I turn it off and on again, you can see that it starts at the same point. But if I have that off, it will basically, yeah, it will still just toggle as if it was still going on without it being visible. All right, next one is shake on sound, and I really love this one. So just like the other audio triggered one, I'm gonna set this to my mic, and basically it reacts to my mic. Where's the, oh, I turned it off. There you go. Boom, 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 boom. Doesn't move a lot. So let's go ahead and bump up the zoom level. And now it goes wild. So same thing, if you put this on your alert box and, you know, every time there's an alert, whatever sound you have on your alert is going to react to this, could be a cool thing. Maybe it's a channel point reward, or you put like an earthquake sound, or I don't know, something like that. So you can play around the audio threshold, the zoom level, of course, you can make it go really wild, and then the shake level, you can make it just zoom without shaking. Kind of similar to the audio move filter. Watch my videos, man. So that's a cool effect that you get with this. And then finally, we have a pretty simple effect, which is vignette. If for some reason you would like to just have a vignette, you can preserve the aspect ratio, so you have like a perfect circle every time, or not, and play around with the outer radius, the inner radius, the strength. You can basically lower the opacity of the overall vignette, and then the curvature, right? Do you want it to be more square or more round, just like that? Now on the website where you go to download the Shadertastic plugin, you can see something called library, where it actually gives you a little bit more. You have more transitions and more filters. Digital glitch is a transition that basically glitches between scenes. Old TV is basically this old like VHS type of effect as a filter, of course. Light speed is a transition, kind of similar to the ink drop that we got. And then squares is a transition where, there you go, you have a bunch of squares. And those are things that you have to download independently. There's also cell shading effect. There's also Lichtenstein. There's also this one, which reminds me of the After Effects CC ball effect. Simplex noise, which is kind of like a turbulent displacement effect. And then Sobel. I don't know, just kind of like that burn transition in a way. So there you go. If you want those, they are on the website. And there you have it. I'd like to thank you for watching the video and remind you just once more to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.